What's up, everybody? Joe Brown here. This is the Heresy Financial Show. You know, last week I was at the 121 Mining Conference. After that, I actually went and did a site visit with Blackrock Silver and Summa Silver. We went and took a look at their mines, took a look at their core results, took a look at their drill results, their core samples, and really got a feel for what they are looking at, what they are doing there, why they're there. And so in this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play two clips. We did an on-site interview with Andrew, the CEO of Blackrock, and then I did another on-site interview with Galen, CEO of Summa Silver, and it was fantastic. It's very educational. You'll enjoy these interviews. They answer a lot of questions about mining in general, what to be looking for as we're moving into this cycle where I expect miners to outperform. This right now looking like one of the best investment opportunities of potentially the next decade. So without further ado, let's dive in. What's up, everybody? My name is Joe Brown. This is the Heresy Financial Show. We are on site at Summa Silver with CEO Galen McNamara. Thanks for doing this.
Great to be here, Joe. Here we are in beautiful Tonopah, Nevada.
Tonopah, and where are we right now? This is a historic site.
Yeah, so Tonopah is a Wild West mining district going back to the early 1900s, and where we're standing at right now is the Belmont Mine. This was one of the big historic past producers in this area, and we're standing in really what are the ruins of the old mine. The mine shaft is just over there.
If we take a look at that over there, you see those big concrete slabs. Those are covering up a hole, and I know you guys can't smell it, but going over there's a big constant gust of wind coming out from those cracks, and it smells like sulfur. So what is going on over there?
Yeah, that's right. So all of these mines in this area, they're all interconnected underground.
Okay.
So there's another shaft somewhere else, maybe miles away. That's a downdraft shaft, and that's an updraft shaft, and it just blows high pressure air right out of it. That smells like sulfur.
Yeah.
There's a lot of sulfur in the rocks down there.
Got it.
So some of it's getting dissolved by water, and we're smelling sulfuric, basically sulfuric acid.
Similar to why I guess like a hot spring would smell like sulfur.
Exact same reason. Yeah,
Got
that's
it.
the perfect example.
Okay. And then if we pan up that way, we see a really old structure. Can you explain what that is?
Yeah. So that was the old mill structure. So
Okay.
if the thing is, you got to imagine now there was big buildings here 100 years ago.
Okay.
So that was the structure where they crushed up all of the quartz to get the silver out of it.
Okay.
And that was part of the processing facilities here, where at the end of the day, you'd start with some high-grade ore and high-grade silver and quartz veins. By the time you crushed it all up and got the silver out, you'd have silver bars.
And those are called stamp mills?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Back then, they used to be called stamp mills. So this was a 60 stamp mill. So back by the standards of the day, that was a very, very large mill. And the thing to think about here is that it doesn't look like much now, but 40 million ounces of silver came out of the ground right below us.
Oh, wow. Wow. And so, well, explain why they left. Obviously, the silver price crashed, but
That's right.
also the technology is different. They used to look for silver by their eyes.
That's right. That's right. And now we just our methods are so much different. And I'm a geologist, so I've been through this process several times before. And in my experience, whenever you go into a big old mine like this, and you do the legwork to really build the models, what we call geologic models, and then we build them on the computer, and we can see everything in 3D. When you go through that work, you always find that there's targets left, there's drill targets left. So that's what we did. This was the first area we drilled in this property, and we got some very, very high grades right off the bat, and that's continuing today. And it just goes to show you that, there's a lot of juice left to squeeze here. There's low-hanging fruit to pick here.
Especially because they didn't have the ability to squeeze.
That's right.
Some of that we do today.
That's right. The way the analogy I like to use, it's like taking modern weapons to an historic battlefield. And think about how much damage you could do.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, for the average investor, the person who is kind of looking to take advantage of this hyper-cyclical market and looking like we're coming into a big super cycle here and what's going on with inflation, we were talking last night about things to look for in companies because the definition of by Mark Twain's quote, the definition of a gold mine is a hole in the ground with a liar on top. So what can people look for to make sure that they know what is being said is really going on?
That's a great quote, and it's from probably the mid-1800s or something like that. But it just goes to show you that human nature never changes.
Yeah.
Right? Some of the shady stuff that went on then probably still goes on now, and it's not that much different, right? So if you're a new investor in thinking about mining companies, it's really hard to understand what's good and what's not good. And there'll be many companies out there that they'll be, telling you a bunch of numbers, right?
Yeah.
So while you're first getting started and while you're learning, it's really, it's hard to discern what's good and what's not. So what a good trick to do is to follow people who have been successful. Follow management teams who have been successful before, either who have made made money for their shareholders, number one, had some discovery success, number two. For whatever reason, there's something in the DNA where if you've done it once, it's a lot easier to do again.
Yeah.
So that's one example. And then the other example we were discussing was, of course, different investors, right? So look to some investors that have had a lot of success, like, the Eric Sprotts of the world.
And Sprott is in
Correct.
Summa, right?
He owns 20% of our company, Summa Silver.
Okay.
Yeah, he's invested about $10 million into our company. So, you follow those people into successful situations, and you're going to really up your chances of having success yourself. And there's no silver bullet in this thing. There never is in any investing, right?
Right.
But you want to give yourself the best chance possible.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, we're covering up the mics. It's pretty windy out here.
Yeah.
Don't want it to blow up the microphone. But yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. And I am an investor in Summa, but
Great to hear.
I can't remember off the top of my head the symbols. So Canada and the States, what are the different symbols?
Canada, it trades under SSVR.
SSVR.
And in the States, SSVRF.
SSVRF. Okay, and I'll link those in the description below for anybody who's wanted to take a look as well.
Great.
Thanks for having us out here. This is really exciting. It's so interesting to see all the historical stuff, and I'm really excited for what it looks like might be coming out of these historic places pretty soon here.
Us too, yeah. Full steam ahead for us.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, thanks so much.
Thanks very much.
And thank you guys for watching. You have a good day. All right, what's up, everybody? Joe Brown with the Heresy Financial Show. I've got Andrew Pollard here, CEO of Blackrock Silver. Thanks so much for inviting us out here. We're doing a site tour, and if you can see, we've got a bunch of drill results all around us. So we're gonna have a little bit of an educational conversation here. Number one, I'd like to hear from you, why Tonopah, and what's the historical significance about everything going on here?
Yeah, well, listen, we're in literally the halfway point between Las Vegas and Reno. In fact, the highway that connects them two goes right through this area. And Tonopah is one of the most significant precious metals mining districts in American history. In fact, it's one of the reasons why Nevada is still a state. Nevada actually got its statehood during the American Civil War. The Comstock lode discovery, which was world famous at the time, helped fund the American Civil War. It led to this massive influx of people into the state. It allowed for Nevada to get seats in the Senate at the time. So it became a state because of that. Now, 30, 40 years later, in the 1890s or so, that big deposit had petered out, and 2/3 of the state's population had left. It was really only cattle ranchers and First Nations, Native Americans. It was the Tonopah discovery in 1900 which revitalized the state of Nevada, led to the biggest frontier mining gold rush that the state had seen right up until World War I, and led to many of the significant discoveries that happened in this area, which really, it's the yellow brick road from here all the way down to Las Vegas. All those gold mines were discovered on the back of this in the early 1900s. Now, Tonopah itself is very unique globally because it's a high-grade silver system. So everyone thinks of Nevada for gold. Nevada is known as the silver state because of our deposit. It's about 100 to 1 silver to gold, and it's ultra high grade, which means the old timers were making a lot of money. Now, what happened was this, 100 years ago in the 1900, 1910, 1920, this was one of the most significant sort of precious metals mining districts globally. But in 1923, metals prices tanked as we went towards the Great Depression. Silver, for example, like you've heard of silver dollars, they went from being worth $1 down to 25 cents an ounce a couple of years later, and that sent everything in this district belly up. And it was one of those classic like mining boom towns that boom and bust.
Sure.
And the thing is, all of this land back in the old days, it's private land. So all these old timers staked these private land claims, and they just got passed down generationally ever since. And really, this area has been hiding in plain sight for the better part of 90 years. We're the first group to go in since production shut down in 1930, consolidate this big district. And our first drill hole was one of the best rediscoveries in the industry ever since. I mean, we've been one of the best performing junior mining companies since we started drilling this thing. And our first drill hole, the first activity on a property was literally the first activity that happened since 1930 when all these things went belly up. So it's truly amazing. In the center of all these big gold mines, a highway driving right through town.
Yeah.
And there's literally a mining museum right next to our property talking about the significance of our property, but no one's been able to get back in there. So we picked this property up 2 years ago, and we're now one of the most active silver and gold, junior exploration companies in Nevada.
So one of the things, people might, think initially, to just right off the bat, is, hey, if there was a mine here 100 years ago, it's no activity since then, it must be bled dry. But the thing is, back then, you looked for silver by looking at the ground and picking it up and looking at it. And now, this is, because of modern technology, like, you can get silver out of this.
Yeah, this is all stuff that's, a couple hundred meters, up to like 1,000 feet below surface almost. So, everything that was at surface would have been picked over long ago, but the old timers, they were industrious and they were able to find these big outcropping veins at surface, really rich in silver and gold. And then, using picks and shovels and mules and donkeys and dynamite, lots of dynamite, were able to blast their way underground. And it was just by, it's the business side of things. Like, listen, if you're making widgets and a widget goes from, $100 down to $25 or whatever, silver, it lost 75% of its valuation in 2 years. These are big mining companies, so they had a lot of debt that they took out to fund these big, expensive operations back then. And it was that debt that they took out, thinking that silver and gold were always going to be, sky high, that ended up sinking the company. So they went into receivership and bankruptcy, in 1930 sort of thing. And then people picked them up back then and just didn't do anything with them. So, there's no way for other people to come in and start drilling on a property or trying to figure out just how much these old timers left behind until we did it. And what we're showing is this is going to be one of the most significant silver and gold discoveries, rediscoveries in many decades. And silver is very rare because most silver is produced in like Mexico and Peru and Argentina, like South and Central America. And those are all the countries right now that are making it really hard to keep investing in. You've got, governments doing, COVID shut down lots of these countries entirely.
Risk is huge.
Yeah, you've got safety issues. You've got, some of them are in the middle of nowhere, right? So, I mean, you have to build entire communities out in the desert. Here, we're literally we're in our core shack, which is across the street from the biggest hotel in Tonopah.
Right.
And our project's like, we're drilling behind a Chevron and a Burger King right now. So it's lots going in our favor.
Yeah, awesome. Well, tell me a little bit about these rocks that we see behind us here, these core samples. Just in the most basic way that you can explain, what is something that's not good, what is something that's good, and what is something that's extremely good?
If we've laid these out here, these are all good. But the difference is, so anyone that's driven along in Nevada or maybe Arizona or New Mexico, you've probably driven past these big, pits at surface, like where they're mining very low-grade gold and silver that comes right up, and it's really dirt-moving operations. The difference between those and what we have is these are ultra-high-grade vein systems, so quartz veins. So what you'll see here is a quartz vein, and this would have been pulled out probably from 200 to 300 meters below surface, and you'll see this. Just all this alteration here means we're in a good spot. So you'll see some gold, silver, and you know when you're in the vein and when you're not. But the difference between the big pits that you see driving on the highway and these is just the amount of gold and silver in them. So this is in the many tens of ounces per ton silver. We've hit up to 5
ounces, not grams.
Yeah, ounces. Yeah. 5 kilos, 5 kilograms silver is what we've hit here. We've hit up to 26 grams gold, so nearly an ounce gold in some of our drill holes. So truly high grade, and high grade just means high margin when you're mining it. So you find the veins, you just pull them out of the earth, and it as opposed to a big pit. I mean, you wouldn't even know these underground veins are here. So it's very low disturbance, which makes very environmentally friendly as opposed to having to move a mountain to sort of get it.
Wow. Well, good. What are the two stock symbols?
Yeah, so my company is called Blackrock Silver. We're Down on the OTC here in America under the symbol BKRRF, and in Canada we're on the Venture Exchange under the symbol BRC.
BRC, okay. Yeah, and I do own the stock, I just couldn't remember the symbol, so that's why I asked you there. But
all that matters is making money, right?
Right, exactly. This is great, and thank you so much for explaining, the historical significance, looking at, some of the things that are important in terms of how close you are to civilization and energy and people and all that, and then how significant it is to see what is being pulled out of the ground, and really exciting stuff. I'm excited to see what happens here soon.
Me too.
Yeah.
Thanks very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks.
Cheers.